This abandoned glass tower in New York has a very expensive problem. It's sitting right next to the East River, in one of the priciest parts of Manhattan, 60 floors tall, all wrapped in glass. They built it for million-dollar condos. The plan sounded perfect, and from the outside, it looked like another New York success story. They took this tiny waterfront lot and turned it into a $400 million luxury tower. But then something started going wrong. A strange problem came from a place most people never look. And that one hidden problem turned this dream tower into an empty skyscraper nobody can live in. Now, to understand why that's so crazy, you first need to see what this building was supposed to become. This tower sits at 161 Maiden Lane, right near the South Street Seaport. People also know it as One Seaport, or Seaport Residences. In 2013, Fortis Property Group bought this narrow Manhattan lot for $64 million. And they didn't want to build something small there. They wanted a 60-story luxury tower, about 670 feet tall, around 200,000 square feet, with 80 high-end condos looking straight over the East River. The money plan looked massive too. Fortis expected the building to sell out for around $272 million. Even the cheapest homes started at about $1.2 million, and the penthouses could go above $18 million. So this wasn't just another apartment building. It had the full New York luxury package, a glass curtain wall, staggered balconies climbing up the corner, and those expensive river views everyone wants. On paper, it looked like the perfect waterfront skyscraper, but the land underneath it had a very different story. Because this building doesn't sit on simple, solid ground. Centuries ago, this part of Manhattan wasn't even land yet. It was just river edge and marshland, where the East River came much farther inland. So back in the 1600s and 1700s, people started pushing the shoreline outward. They dumped rocks, sand, bricks, trash, old wooden docks, and even pieces of abandoned ships right into the water. Layer after layer, they turned that messy fill into new land. Hundreds of years later, developers wanted to put a 670-foot luxury tower on top of it. When engineers studied the ground, they found around 24 feet of that old infill near the surface. Underneath sat the old marshland, then sand, then decomposed rock. The real strong bedrock only sat around 155 feet down. So this tower didn't just have a height problem, it had a ground problem. They were building a tall, skinny skyscraper on land that used to be water. So normally, in a place like Lower Manhattan, engineers don't take chances with that. They drill deep pile foundations. Basically, they drive huge supports down through the weak ground until they hit bedrock. That way, the skyscraper doesn't really sit on the messy soil. It sits on solid rock. And for 161 Maiden Lane, that rock sat about 155 feet underground. That's deep. That's like drilling down almost 14 or 15 stories before the building even starts going up. So Fortis had two choices: spend more money and anchor the tower into bedrock, or use a cheaper method and try to make the soft ground stronger. They chose the cheaper method. It's called soil improvement. Instead of drilling massive supports all the way down, crews injected cement into the ground. The idea was to stiffen up the weak soil under the tower, kind of like turning loose mud into a harder base. And this saved around $6 million, which was about 2.21% of the total construction cost. Before the tower really climbed into the skyline, it was found out that one part of the building are sinking more than another part. And once that starts happening under a 670-foot skyscraper, it's very scary. Construction started around 2015 and 2016. Concrete started rising, floor after floor. From the street, it looked like a normal luxury tower going up. But behind the fencing, problems started showing up early. By 2018, people on the project noticed the tower had shifted. The whole structure leaned about 3 inches to the north. Now, 3 inches doesn't sound much, but on a 670-foot skyscraper, that's not good, because tall buildings need everything to line up. The glass panels need a straight frame. The elevator shafts need to run clean from bottom to top. The pipes need the right angle so water can drain. The windows need tight seals so rain and wind don't sneak in. So even a small lean can turn into a massive construction problem. And later, the lean was closer to 8 inches. So contractors tried to fight the lean as they built higher. And what they do, instead of pouring the upper floors perfectly straight, they tried to angle them slightly the other way. Basically, they were trying to correct the tower while it was still going up. But that didn't create a clean, straight skyscraper. It created a curved one. The lower part leaned one way. The upper part tried to pull back the other way. And that's why people started calling it the banana-shaped tower. And once that happened, the glass became a whole new problem, because 161 Maiden Lane was supposed to shine beside the East River. A full reflective glass curtain wall, clean edges, smooth panels, but a glass curtain wall needs a straight frame. The panels come in fixed shapes, the seals need tight contact, the edges need to meet cleanly. And this tower didn't give them that anymore. Some glass went up around the middle section, but large parts of the building stayed exposed. The top looked bare, the lower sections stayed unfinished, and instead of a polished waterfront tower, New York got a half-covered concrete skeleton beside the river. The bigger issue was sealing it. If the exterior doesn't close properly, rain gets in, wind gets in, cold air gets in, and you can't build luxury apartments inside a tower that can't protect itself from the weather. So at this moment, the shape of the building itself made the finishing work harder. But then the project ran into another problem. In 2019, the original contractor, Pizzarati, sued Fortis Property Group. They said the real problem came from the foundation choice. Basically, they blamed the decision to build on improved soil instead of deep piles into bedrock. But Fortis pushed back. They said the lien didn't come from the foundation and instead blamed the construction work. Over time, more people got pulled in: the lenders, the insurance companies, the condo buyers, Bank Leumi, Mac Real Estate, Valley National. Even legal teams later became part of the mess. Over time, the project collected more than 24 lawsuits. And that created a trap, because fixing a tower like this could cost over $100 million. Someone would have to drill new supports, stabilize the structure, and deal with the curved frame. But nobody wants to spend that kind of money. And even if someone settled the lawsuits tomorrow, people still couldn't just move in. Because in New York, a building needs a certificate of occupancy. 161 Maiden Lane never got that sign-off. And without it, the whole luxury dream stops at the door. No legal residence, no normal apartment, closings, no easy mortgages, no normal insurance, no families moving into those Riverview condos. So the tower isn't just abandoned because construction stopped. It's trapped from every direction. Engineering problem, money problem, legal problem, city code problem. And while all of that sits in court, the building itself keeps aging. As of right now, this tower has stood unfinished for more than 6 years. And every year it stays open, the repair job gets harder. Rain hits the exposed structure. Cold weather works into cracks. Water freezes, expands, and starts damaging concrete. The salty river air attacks metal parts. Mechanical systems sit unused, so time doesn't pause the problem. Time makes it more expensive. And now the choices all look painful. They could drill new piles deep into the ground and try to stabilize the tower. They could strip parts of it back and rebuild. They could demolish it and start over. Or they could leave it frozen while the lawsuits keep moving. And that's how a luxury waterfront dream became one of New York's strangest unfinished skyscrapers. So, is the building falling? Not exactly. Engineers say it doesn't pose an immediate safety danger, but it did move, it did lean, and it did become too complicated to finish like a normal tower. And that is the strangest part, because now New York has a $400 million question standing beside the East River. So now let me ask you, if you were in charge of this tower, what would you do? Spend another fortune trying to save it, or just tear the whole thing down and start from zero? So let me know in the comments. And if you like stories about mega projects, skyscrapers, bold architecture, and the engineering behind the world's most unusual buildings, make sure to subscribe.